The legendary beasts. 3 monstrous yet elegant Pokemon that were reincarnated by the Radiant Ho-Oh. They are emblematic of the rain, lightning, and fire caused by the storm that took the lives of the Pokemon these beasts were resurrected from. This gives us 3 types, so what if there was a legendary beast of every type? Hey everyone, Brandon here, and to celebrate reaching 500,000 subscribers on this channel, last month I hosted a contest where you all submitted designs to potentially be featured and redesigned for this video. You all definitely showed out for this contest, and I am so thankful for each and every person who entered. Even if your entry didn't make it in the video, know that I definitely saw it and I appreciate you so much for being a part of this contest. And while we're on the topic of hitting 500k, there are only 3 days left to get yourself the limited run 500k celebration merch from my merch store. So make sure to check out the link in the card or the description to pick something up before it goes away forever. Anyway, there are actually a bunch of types of legendary beasts I already covered in a video previously on this channel, where we turned the evolutions into these beasts. So here are Kenzu, the Cerebral Pokemon, Anjo, the Night Pokemon, Shino, the Jungle Pokemon, Hyohi, the Blizzard Pokemon, Mashu, the Magic Pokemon, and Iji, the Great Pokemon. If you want to learn more about these Pokemon, make sure to check out the video linked here and in the description. Just like we did with the legendary bird of every type, let's begin with the flying type. This type had some pretty epic entries, such as this one by Zygarde, which looks like it was maybe done on the back of some math homework? I appreciate the dedication, but do your homework! Many entries for this type focused around the clouded leopard with the cloud part taken literally, such as with these entries by Ethan is Real and Lo-Fi. Ethan's was simply adorable, and the prismatic clouds of Lo-Fi's are really eye-catching. But the concept that won out was Fangshi by Jakichi. The first one that really appealed to me about this one was the balance of design features. Each of the beasts has about 3 or 4 major features: the crest on their face or head, the mane or cape that runs along their back, and some kind of extra features such as their tail like Suicune, these bracelets on Entei who doesn't have a tail and has these spikes coming from its back, and Raikou has both an interesting design feature with its fangs and a unique tail, though both are a little bit more tapered down compared to Entei and Suicune. So this design I felt struck that balance well, though there were some slight things I wanted to change. As I said in the video announcing this contest, I worked with the talented foongoosmon to redesign these beasts, so that they could all look consistent since we had so many different art styles featured in this contest, and this is supposed to be a cohesive group of Pokemon, so make sure to check out Foongoos' link in the description. With that said, I worked with Foongoos to turn Fangshi into Futen, the Cloud Pokemon. With Suicune being said to be a reincarnation of the North Wind, this Pokemon is a reincarnation of the South Wind, creating mighty gusts that it sprints on around the Pokemon world, purifying the air and leaving the skies clear and bright. I thought the idea of this Pokemon being almost like a counterpart within the group would work well, given Suicune represents the rain of the storm, and so Futen represents the bright white clouds after the storm settled, the dawn of a new day. In Greek mythology, Boreas is the god of the North Wind, and is more associated with the cold wind of winter, whereas his brother Notus, the god of the South Wind, is associated with the warmer winds of late summer and early autumn. Notus was known to blow in Luku Nodos, or White Notice, a wind that comes in to clear up the sky. While we're on the topic of Greek myths, let's talk about Futen's design changes, starting with these big old wings on its back legs which replaced its tail. This references the Greek messenger god Hermes, who was able to travel swiftly between the realms of the mortal and the divine with his winged sandals. The pattern alongside the body was changed to look more like an air current, and we made the clouds take up the spot of its tail like Entei. We also got rid of the fangs since that's one of Raikou's main features. The name was changed as well because it used the Chinese Hanzi in its name instead of the Japanese Kanji, which didn't align with the previous beasts. Initially, this Pokemon was inspired by Fangbo or Fangshi, a Chinese god of the wind with the head of a bird and the patterns of a leopard. So I wanted to try and maintain that vibe while also introducing some new elements. Its name Futen actually uses the exact same characters as Fangshi. Fu is the Onyomi version of Kaze, which means wind just like Fang, and Ten is the Onyomi version of Ama or Ame, which means heaven or divine. When put together, it makes Futen meaning heavenly wind, but it is also another name for Fujin, the Japanese god of the wind, which acts as the Shinto counterpart to Fangbo, and is the inspiration behind another legendary, Tornadus. I'm very happy that the naming convention could not only stay true to the original beasts and the ones we made for the previous video, but also the intent behind Jakichi's inspiration. Each of the legendary beasts has pressure and then inner focus as their hidden ability, and so spoilers for the evolution beast video, but instead I decided to give each of the new ones abilities like the original beast's hidden abilities in Gens 5 and 6, that had to do with absorbing their type. So for Futen, it would have the new hidden ability called Updraft, which if they are hit by a flying type move, their speed stat would be raised instead of taking damage. Up next, let's talk about the bug type. As I usually state in Of Every Type videos that feature a mammalian creature as the focus, integrating insect-like elements is always a challenge. But there were a bunch of artists who took on that challenge, creating some absolutely incredible designs such as the sleek Kiko by Nui the Shark, the epically Japanese-feeling Nuikyo by Tombi, this odd yet intriguing design by Zebra Knight, and this adorable design by Purpley XEO. These were all fantastic, but just didn't come close enough to the elements of the rest of the beasts, so I would have to have changed the designs a bit too much. The same can be said for Bagukan by Jess the Dex, which came so close to winning, but I just could not alter this design in any way without sacrificing what makes it cool. I really appreciated the concept art page as well, so thanks for that. So now for the winner, we have Ryocho by 100 Jams. This design is based around dragonflies, beetles, and the black-footed cat, the smallest cat in Africa, which fits for the bug type. According to Jams, this whole design has a theme of hunting, with the black-footed cat and the dragonfly being the most successful hunters of their respective classes, with a kill rate of 60% and 95% respectively. Its long web-like hair is an element referring to the Amazons of Greek myth, female warriors and hunters that were known for their physical strength and agility, and their skills in archery, horse riding, and combat. The dragonfly part of this design also ties in with the mythological first emperor of Japan, Jimmu. There is a legend that he was bitten by a mosquito that was subsequently eaten by a dragonfly, which is said to be an interpretation of where one of Japan's classical names, Akitsushima, or Dragonfly Island, comes from. Phew! That is a lot of lore packed into one design, and if you're a regular viewer of the channel, you know that is absolutely right up my alley. The design and lore itself didn't need much changing, so Foongoos and I turned Kyocho into Reiso, the swarm Pokemon. So as I said, and as you can see, we didn't change too terribly much. The main thing was changing its crest so it was a bit more angular and covered the ears of the previous design, since legendary beasts don't have them, gave it these mandibles to further make this feel like a bug, and made its horns a bit smaller and asymmetrical. The biggest thing that changed was the name. I looked and looked and looked, and I could not find a single case of this kanji Jams used being pronounced Ryo, though it does mean dragonfly, but I found it pronounced as Rei. The second one used for the name is correct and means hunting, but without the dragonfly aspect, the double meaning is lost with it. So I tried to find a kanji for Rei that had a double meaning, and the closest to hunter I could find were a few kanji for whetstone or sharpen, which hunters most definitely do and fits the edgier appearance of this design. Cho does in fact mean chief, but the name Reicho just brings back memories of an infamous hairstyle and someone who can't read. So that's when I looked again and found So, which means ancestor or forefather, which is perfect given this design's inspiration of Jimmu, a forefather of Japanese history. And when you add in that U to So, putting so at the end of a word means it looks like. So the name basically means it looks like a dragonfly. And Reiso certainly does, and its hunting rate reflects a dragonfly too. It is a supreme hunter that was reborn thanks to Ho-Oh to chase down and find each of the legendary beasts and bring them together once more before their creator. Why? We'll find out later. For its hidden ability, we have Honey Hoover, where if hit by a bug-type move, it will regain HP instead of taking damage. Hoover, while a vacuum brand, has also become synonymous with eating in excess. And we get that nice alliteration. Onto the rock type, we had solid entries with things like Zancho from D&D Fakemon, which has a cool mountainous design, and Ichiko from Luke's Raid Draw Stuff, which almost feels like a lost member of the Weather Trio with its Kintsugi inspiration. There is also a hilarious entry from Kurokun called Chirudo, which is a mix of Chester Cheetah and Cheeto Dust. I got quite a laugh out of this one, so thank you for that. Anyway, the design I chose for this one was from Sparts23. It is inspired by Servals and the Tiger's Eye gemstone, which I thought was a really fun angle for the rock type. And with its coloration, it almost looks like layers of sediment. So with Foongoos, we turned this design into Gonseki, the rock slide Pokemon. So with this design, we changed the ears so they were a little less literal as, like I said before, the beasts don't have them. And we took the single tooth and exaggerated it into these two fang-like parts of its crest that look a little bit like stalactites since they hang from the mouth area. I know I said previously that fangs were kind of Raikou thing, but these felt different enough as they are part of the crest rather than inside the mouth, and this design is inspired by Tiger's Eye, so for it to be the only other one with saber-tooth-like fangs made sense to me. We also made the stripes a bit more angular to help with the rock-type feeling and further bring out the layers of sediment idea. It also makes the mane look a little bit more dramatic, with it feeling soft against the otherwise hard features. Speaking of, the mane is posed so it looks like a rock slide, its category's namesake. So for its name, it comes from Gon, which means rock or stone, and Seki, which means eminence, something royalty is often called. It is time to hit subscribe, like, and leave a comment down below, your eminence. Put together, Gonseki also means stone, so you could most certainly say this Pokemon rocks. Yeah, I'll take a lap for that one. Ganseki was reborn from a Pokemon involved in another tragedy that took place in Johto. A mighty rock slide threatened to destroy Ekritique City, when a brave and strong Pokemon stepped in to stop it, though it sacrificed itself in the process. Ho-Oh honored this act of courage by reincarnating the Pokemon so it had the power to protect from future disasters, by harnessing the one that led to its end. With that said, Ganseki's hidden ability would be Bedrock, which would raise the power of its rock-type moves if it was hit by one. Next, we have the fighting type. For this type, there were some super tough looking designs like these ones by Cryptozool and Septic Skeptic that I quite enjoyed, which are both based on the Nemean Lion. Though the design I chose for this type was Senjin by Artist Eve. The braids used throughout this cheetah-inspired design really caught my eye and gave me ideas on what I wanted to expand upon in the redesign. So here is Senshin, the war Pokemon. So obviously I loved the braids and wanted to keep them. I also wanted to use them as the basis to work in another bit of inspiration. While this was initially supposed to be based on a cheetah, we changed the design to be more leopard-like, as well as changed the pattern to this one on its leg specifically to reference the Zulu people of South Africa. They are South Africa's native people and are the largest ethnic group and nation within it. There is one particular famous leader, warrior, and founder of the state, King Shaka Kazenga Kona. The warriors of the Zulu are known for wearing leopard skins and tails, which are signs of bravery and courage in battle. A tradition started by Shaka, which gained popularity when King Setshwayo donned a leopard pelt in the 1890s. The pattern on its side is meant to reference the shield these warriors wield as well. Leopards are revered by the Zulu people, and many parts of the leopard were used within their culture, such as the teeth and claws to make beads for the necklace, which were a sign of power and achievement, or used in medicine to promote business stability. And if you want to promote the stability of this channel, hit that join button. Our incredible members get access to perks like videos early, a shout out at the end of my videos, and can even help fund one Fakemon design per month that they are credited for. All the while, you get to know you are supporting this channel so I can keep making videos just like this. So go ahead and hit that join button and become a member now. Back to Senshin though. With the leopard's importance to the Zulu people, it should have part of its name with something about reverence and even the divine. The name already had a good basis with Sen meaning war and Jin meaning divine or god, but I wanted to make one slight change, turning Jin into Shin, which means exactly the same thing and the kanji is the same. There's a beast later in this video that also has Jin in its name, so I didn't want to have two with the same last part. Another fun fact about this name is that if you use the kunyomi for these two kanji, Ikusagami, it means god of war, Ares, or Mars, the Greek or Roman gods of war. It is also how the famous video game franchise is titled in Japan. Senshin also sounds like Henshin, which means transform in Japanese, much like the beasts were transformed from regular Pokemon. During the rage of battle in the Great Pokemon War, many Pokemon and people were lost. Two of them were a hero and his faithful companion who tried their best to put a stop to the war before it broke out, but were ultimately lost among the carnage. Ho-Oh took the souls of these two, the fallen warriors, and their Pokemon, and infused them all into one, Senshin, who uses its fearsome strength to keep the rumblings of war at bay. Some say that it absorbs the will to fight from Pokemon and people alike, and this is why there has not been a major war since. Senshin's hidden ability would be called Pacifist, which instead of taking damage from fighting type moves, its speed stat is increased. Honestly, I was between Pacifist, Punch Puller, Ceasefire, and Armistice for names, so whichever you feel fits best works too. From there, let's move on to the ground type. Many entries for this type had some form of Egyptian inspiration, such as Stolidex's fantastic Bastet and Sphinx Cat inspired Miraju, and the awesome Sphinx of Giza inspired entries of Raidmon and Swellomello. Before I move on though, I just have to ask, why is there so much canvas and so little entry on this one? It's a great design, but how teeny tiny it was just made me laugh. Anyway, the one I picked for this type is Kyukusu from Tridex. This is yet another Sphinx of Giza inspired design, but the elements felt tapered down enough that there was room for a bit of a redesign. So here is the newly redesigned and renamed Sandai, the Sandstorm Pokemon. So we both fleshed out and dialed down parts of the original design. We tried to make the head crest a little bit less literal with its Nemesis inspiration by flattening it out a bit and having the pattern go all the way to its feet. We also took the block texture off the tail and moved it somewhere else, but kept the pyramid inspiration there so it felt a little less direct. Sandai is a symbol of royal status. It is said that only royalty may see this Pokemon in their lifetime. There are tales of this Pokemon being a reincarnation of a man who once fought with a fierce creature threatening his kingdom, winning using only his bare hands. Sandai would very easily get Earth Eater as its hidden ability since it already exists, making my job of coming up with these a lot easier. As far as its name, it comes from San with this kanji meaning sand, and Dai with this kanji meaning large, grand, or great. Many ancient rulers have the Great behind their name, with Khafre, whose likeness was used to make the Sphinx of Giza, being one of them, Khafre the Great. Also, if you combine the kanji, Sandai comes together to mean the Big Three. No, not those big three, which are Naruto, One Piece, and Bleach, and only those three. these big three, the pyramids of Giza, which the tale makes reference to. And above all else, there is sand literally in its name. Poison had a really cool selection of entries as people tried different things to represent the type, such as this mushroom-based entry from Shellshocker 24, which is actually a reincarnation of their poison type evolution, playing into the theory we covered in the previous video. There's also this design by Raidmon that had a cool Maleficent vibe to it, and this Poison Gas Jaguar by Bra Jonathan 1. The design I picked for this type was Tsuchizoku by Kurokun 56. This beast fit nearly perfectly into the design tropes we discussed toward the beginning of this video, so I picked it not only for that reason, but because it displays the poison type in such a subtle way. Kind of like the nature of poison, it is supposed to be hidden, unsuspected by the target of said poisoning. So we kept a lot of those elements when we redesigned it into Dokuga, the Venom Pokemon. So let's talk about the name first, since the design didn't change a massive amount. The original's name was just a bit too long, as every name thus far has only had 2 to 3 syllables. Dokuga's name comes from Doku, which means poison or venom, and Ga, meaning palace, a place where royalty resides. Look, there are only so many royalty or divine related words in Japanese, okay? Anyway, Ga can also mean fang, so together it can mean poison fang or palace of poison, which honestly sounds like it belongs in Jujutsu Kaisen. Domain expansion, palace of poison. Kuga also means cougar in Japanese, and is actually a case of garaigo, which is taking English words and using katakana to say them. Kuga, cougar. Cougars or mountain lions can also be black panthers alongside leopards and jaguars. So design-wise, we changed up small things. Generally, we changed things so they looked a little bit more natural to this design, combining the spikes with the feet rather than the bracelet look they had before, getting rid of the ears in favor of more spikes, and changing the tail to look less metallic and more like the end of a tail. Foongoos added a little skull motif in there as well, which many toxic things come labeled with, and the shape refers to an arrow, so in combination, it is a poison-tipped arrow. The tale of Dokuga goes as such. Once there was a purloin that was adopted and raised by poison-type Pokemon. All the poison types loved and respected it as one of their own, but the purloin wished more than anything that it could be the same type as its friends and family. One day while playing with its friends, Purloin accidentally landed on one of its friend's sharp venomous spikes, and became very badly poisoned. With only other poison types around, there was no way to cure it, so the Pokemon called out for help, but it was too late. The tears of these Pokemon summoned a miracle, Ho-Oh's arrival, in which it resurrected the Purloin into the powerful Dokuga, now able to live with its friends and family and protect them with its newfound power. Long after its friends and family had passed, it still rules over and safeguards poison-type Pokemon. And with its new hidden ability, Antidotal, Dokuga's body can absorb the toxins from poison-type moves and use them to restore its HP. Next, we have the type that by far had the most entries in this contest, Ghost. There were so many spectacular, or should I say spooktacular, designs. Like these designs by Septic Skeptic, Selagosada, Tango Mingo, and Grandstar. There was also this design called Shorei by Juno that was inspired by that terrifying yet epic tiger drawing trend from a bit ago, which I thought was a cool reference. There was also this more skinny and tall design by Zebra Knight that had a creepy yet intriguing silhouette compared to the other beasts. But the one I chose in the end was this design by Jolly Mega 97. Its more skeletal, white tiger or liger, and Roman inspired bases stood out to me. Coincidentally enough, Jolly Mega also won for the Ghost type category for the 300k contest, and so they drew Shadonsei interacting with this design, which I found really endearing. With that said, the redesigning process held a few changes, so here is Yusho, the Haunt Pokemon. So let's talk changes. The face, feet, and stripes were made to exaggerate that skeletal feeling, and then we changed the laurels to look more like a natural part of this design. Since it already has this wild wispy hair, we incorporated it into that. Jolly Mega took inspiration from Julius Caesar, whose demise is probably one of the most famous in human history. It is also inspired by Pluto or Despater, the Roman god of death. The poem On the Abduction of Prosperina by Claudian circa 404 AD describes Pluto to be more leonine. So in combination with Caesar, who brought many lions and tigers for Venatio, the hunting of animals for entertainment, this form altogether is a solid ghost-type liger. Legends tell of Yusho appearing from underneath the rubble of the burned tower shortly after the beasts and Ho-Oh fled, and that it is a reincarnation of the bones and bodies of the 3 Pokemon lost in the fire. Yusho's more frightening appearance compared to the original beasts made the villagers distraught with fear, chasing it away like the others. The villagers then reconsidered their initial reaction to Raikou, Entei, and Suicune, living with that regret and passing it down through the generations. Yusho's name comes from Yu, meaning ghost or the dark, and Sho, meaning commander, general, or admiral, much like Caesar was the commander of the Gallic armies, and is where we get the basis for the word shogun. Yusho using these kanji also means victory, which you could say Yusho's reincarnation is a victory over death. Yusho's hidden ability would be called Soul Siphon, which if hit by a ghost-type move, it absorbs it and uses it to make its ghost-type moves more powerful. Our penultimate type is Steel. I quite enjoyed the variety presented by this type, like this Tauti-inspired design by Shimori Shimamoto, or this very armored design by Nui the Shark, which looks like the companion for a BBEG in D&D. And you all must know me too well because these designs by Mouthman and Bones are inspired by mecha or Zords like those seen in Power Rangers or Voltron, which I just adored. The design I chose for this type though was this one by Anafos211. Its Viking and Lynx inspirations work so well with the Beast's design tropes, and it had such a unique silhouette while still feeling like the originals. foongoos and I redesigned it into Kinhei, the Ferris Pokemon. We made this design slightly more bulky and adjusted the proportions slightly to make the pose feel more intimidating. Now it feels a bit more bear-like, which could work as a reference to berserkers, which get their name from bears. We also took out the literal axe tail and instead put more emphasis on the large bracelets and gave it a new pattern on its backside and horns, with them all having a Viking knot inspiration. I also added a bit of inspiration from Canute the Great, yet another great, who was the Viking king of England, Denmark, and Norway, uniting them under his rule, being known as the North Sea Empire. Its name, Kinhei, comes from kin, which means metal or gold, but this specific kanji can be broken down into 3 parts. Hito, which means person or roof, O, which means king, and this symbol, which can translate to grass, plants, or horns. Given this is a Viking king-inspired design, a kanji that breaks down to mean horned roof, aka helmet, king, is definitely fitting. The second part translates to majesty, as in your majesty. With this kanji though, hei can also mean money, so Kinhei can either mean metal majesty or gold coin, like the treasure Vikings pillaged to find. And with Kinhei's more bulky design, weakness to fire, and its name ending with A, this most definitely could act as a counterpart to Entei. Kinhei was born out of a calamity taking place in Galar before the harnessing of Dynamax energy. A Pokemon had accidentally come upon a wellspring of this energy and painfully Dynamaxed into a raging beast without control over its actions. It threatened to destroy the entire region before Zacian and Zamazenta stepped in to regretfully take down this Pokemon. The sudden growth and defeat of this Pokemon left its body in shambles. Ho-Oh, which was on its way to visit the Dyna Tree, came across this Pokemon and resurrected it into Kinhei, bringing it north away from Galar, where it now acts as a protector. Its hidden ability would be Iron Eater, the hidden ability I also gave the pseudo of the Devar region, Wakpok, making Steel-type moves used against this Pokemon heal HP instead of doing damage. Last but certainly not least, we have the Dragon type. This was definitely a hard one because Dragon is just one of those dominating types. It has a certain aura of intimidation and authority, at least to me. There were definitely some solid entries that fit that description, such as Hiryu by Staladex, Reikyu from Eternal Demon, Ryushu by Torterart, and this entry from Surfer Rolf. The design that truly captured this in my eyes though was this entry by the Red Dragon Nerd. It truly feels like a king with its crest, mane, and the jewel on its neck. I definitely wanted to keep those elements but change them so it didn't feel so much like a water type since we already have Suicune as our water representative. So with that, foongoos and I created Ryujin, the master Pokemon. Obviously, this is probably the most dramatic redesign of the video, but we are actually going to start with its name because it informs how we went about making changes. So Ryu means dragon and Jin means god or divine, but Ryujin itself is actually a deity in the Japanese pantheon. It is a dragon god of the sea, controlling the tide with its magic tide jewels, and is a bringer of lightning and rain, like the storm that both caused and put out the fire of the burned tower. Jimmu, the first emperor of Japan who we spoke of earlier, was actually said to be the grandson of Ryujin. This Pokemon is also inspired by Koma Inu, or lion dogs, that are guardians of temples in both Japan and China, linking it to both the mysterious mammalian nature of the beasts, with some calling them cats or others calling them dogs, and the burned tower, which originally acted as a temple to commune with Lugia, a legendary of the sea. So now let's move on to the design changes. It originally had water and lightning elements, but the water overloaded this design with the cape and coloration, so we tried to balance that out more by not only changing the cape to be more of a cowl, but also adding in the fire type. This is because this Pokemon represents all 3 parts of the burning of the brass tower. Represented in its jewel and crest are the water, fire, and electric types, which Dragon is resistant to, so it would make sense for this Pokemon to have mastery over them. We also tried to change some of the cloud elements so it didn't overshadow Futen, but could refer to before and after the storm's appearance, essentially representing the beast's resurrection as well. Though I would love to give it a hidden ability that would act like a combo of Flash Fire, Water, and Volt Absorb, that would be incredibly broken. So we will just stick with tradition and give it the new ability Drake Drain, which absorbs damage from Dragon-type moves and turns it into a boost for its Dragon-type moves. So remember earlier in the video when I said Ho-Oh had Reizo hunt down all the beasts? That was to bring them together to meet the youngest but most powerful beast of all, Ryujin. Ryujin's role is to remain within the burned tower, acting as a master, guide, or guardian to any beasts that find themselves in Johto, acting as a warning to humans who try to hurt or take advantage of the beast's strength. And I have one more thing to show you before we say goodbye to 2024. Take a look. Thank you to everyone who participated in the 500k contest and for watching, subscribing, liking, and commenting so we could reach this amazing milestone. Don't forget to pick up some 500k merch before it goes away in 3 days. And thank you so much to our incredible members who support this channel with their hard-earned money and allow me to continue to pay artists so I can make videos like this and more in the new year, which you can also do by hitting that join button. And with that, I will see you guys next year.